3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Indian Cinemaniacs.
Me too.
What's going on, Maniacs?
Hey,
I'm back. I'm back.
Ralph, let me be the first one to say you look marvelous. You look absolutely marvelous.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think it was enough time, but I'm coming back anyway. Okay, so if I seem a little hostile or if I seem a little out of sorts, because I'm still in the middle of some stuff, and but I'm back. I want to be.
Well,
back.
I have to say that the loyal listeners that we do have were very concerned that you were not coming back. They said all the signs were there. No matter what we said, they felt like you weren't coming back.
So they only listen, they don't watch, is what you're saying?
Well, what
they
they
do
said
both.
was the last Indian one we did sounded like a season, like a series finale.
Well, I did like the one comment we got where somebody said they really liked the last 10 minutes of one of our shows because we just started talking.
And I wanted
to, first of all, let's just say that Debbie is now on her hiatus.
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll come back at some point. We don't know when, but we want Debbie to come back as soon as possible. But I understand taking the hiatus. So how can I be a hypocrite?
Going to take a couple of weeks off.
So,
good
for Debbie. Bad for the show. Good for Debbie.
Yes.
What I wanted to do for this show is not dive right back into another film so I could get into this slowly. I kind of wanted to give just a history of what Yippee-Ki-Yay was and how Sean and I started this. But I thought that might take too long. So John had a good idea to go to our viewers, and in a comment section, ask us questions. It isn't live. We're not reacting live to people, but these are questions that they were sent. I think we have 5 or 6 of them, maybe 5.
I think we have one. There's like 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of them are multi questions. Some of them are kind of interesting. Some of them are funny. So I guess what I'll do is I'll read the question. John graciously sent me the questions, and since he did that, I'm going to read them on air.
Oh, Ralph.
No, I will do it.
Now you want to do it?
Yeah, now I want to
get up the questions.
Yes, I wanted you to
here
do
we
that.
go. Yeah, it's my show. Okay.
So
wait. Well, can I just say one thing before?
Yeah, of course.
So part of this was Drew had brought up that we were coming up on the 1-year anniversary of RRR.
Right. That's right. I'm sorry.
And we didn't, that's a pretty big deal, and that's what kind of put us on this path, this unexpected path. So that was kind of the precursor for why don't we talk a little bit about that and what it meant to us as far as movie watching. And that led us into also viewers, because you guys do ask questions in the comment sections, and we just kind of put them together to answer them for this. But that's really what the precursor was RRR, which I think, what's the anniversary of that? Do we even know the date? It was the middle of the month.
Our episode was September 12th.
Okay.
But the movie, that was the anniversary of when we discovered it.
Yes.
It came out in the States, I think in March, and then again in June.
Yeah, but we're talking about
Netflix.
But everything changed. Everything changed the day Drew brought it in. What haven't you watched?
Right.
What haven't you seen?
Which I think was a fun idea we should do again on our other show. I don't know if you guys out there know. We have another show as well.
What show is that?
I wonder.
And according to the viewership, they don't know.
Exactly.
I wonder what show that is. I don't know what show that might be. All right, so I'll ask the question. I'll throw it out and kind of pick it up.
And you also have who asked the question, right?
Yeah, but
I gave you the names of everybody.
I'm going to need to pronounce
pronunciations.
Well,
can't we just show it on the screen?
Pronounce it once, then ask Drew, and then we'll get it right.
I will have the list.
I know.
Here is the first question from Rom653.
You pronounce that really well.
I think
it's actually Ron M.
Is it Ron M? It's not
Ron M653.
Okay, I guess not.
You didn't pronounce it very well.
I did not. What were your stereotypes about Indian cinema, all cliches included, be frank, before starting this, and how have they changed over time, if any? There's a second one to this, but we'll just answer that one first. So what stereotypes did we all expect when we started watching? Did you have expectations?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can jump in there. I can honestly say I thought all I really knew of Bollywood is that their movies tended to be very long, and that they had lots and lots of musical numbers in them that came out of nowhere. And while we have definitely had some of those films, I found that the musical numbers, for the most part, are actually much more of you know, they're much more integrated into the story in a lot of cases. Sometimes like not at all, hey, this is a musical number that we are performing because it's a cultural thing, or we're in a festival or something like that, you know? You know, so some of those musical numbers, I really thought they were going to be like super heightened and melodramatic, almost like some of those, you know, 70s kung fu movies that we see from like Hong Kong and stuff, where, you know, everything's like huge reactions and stuff like that. And I was completely, you know, and there have been some movies that had that, but for the most part, you know, it's like when you really stop and you listen and you watch, you're watching really fine actors, at you know, at the top of their craft, doing a great job, you know. And I was really pleasantly surprised. And while, don't get me wrong, there's some over the top ones. What was the one where the one that they shot in Chicago like that?
Oh, Doom 3.
Yeah, that one's pretty ridiculous, but it's meant to be. It's meant to be just kind of this over the top, crazy popcorn kind of movie. But like, we've seen so many films that have been like really subtle and really you know, touching and moving and all of that stuff. And like I said, and we've said it a million times, you know, they all look fantastic, you know, and it's not just super bright colors. And we see that sometimes, and sometimes that's completely like legitimate and appropriate for the setting. But it just feels like they're far more, they're far more like professional and just high quality than I was expecting, you know. And I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but over here there was always kind of a pejorative attitude toward Bollywood, you know, and that it's kind of silly and it's kind of goofy, and things like that. And that's just definitely not the case.
All right, let me just say two things on the tail of that. One, let's just throw away that we're probably going to insult a lot of people, and we're, you know, yeah. I can acknowledge that I'm ignorant about the culture and stuff we're learning. I'm making mistakes as I'm watching. And two, let's keep our answers a little shorter. Otherwise, this could go on forever. So yes, go ahead, Sean.
In is that my main exposure to Indian cinema was the Apu trilogy, and we did watch Pather Pachali here on the show, which was great. So I had this more, you know, poverty, sorrow type of thing. And, you know, and I know it's insulting to a lot of our viewers to even say Bollywood, but I had seen more like, what was it? Slumdog Millionaire, things like that. Yeah.
Don't say that.
Which, yeah, I know that's, you know, but and clips from movies, over the top clips like Chris was talking about. You know, you'd watch like Entertainment Tonight or something, and if they talked about Indian film, they'd always say Bollywood. And you'd see some over-the-top romantic comedy. And those were my stereotypes coming in. And I won't say what I've learned, because that may be a question later. But it was the Apu trilogy that brought me into Indian cinema. And that was back in the 80s, because I didn't even remember what the films were called. I thought they were Apu 1, Apu 2, Apu 3. You know, I didn't realize it. And, you know, that first film is still incredibly moving. Maybe we'll get to the other ones here as well. You know, it was very beautiful.
All right, but
one thing I will say is that the cinematography in these films, and it seems like there's a distinct style of cinematography in the different regional markets and the languages. You know, something, you know, but that's maybe something we'll discuss later.
My exposure to this was the only exposure I ever had was like 1970s, and Chris used the analogy I was going to use. It reminded me of the dubbed Hong Kong movies that I used to watch. That's all I ever saw, with really high pitched dubs. They were terrible. It was real grainy. It was very colorful, but I was like, seeing some of that stuff, I had no interest in it at all. So I had zero expectation when we started doing this, other than RRR got a lot of hype, but I still didn't know anything about it. So I had none, nor did I ever think I would sit and watch films from India. So I had no expectation.
Yeah. Hey, Drew, what do you got?
Well, I feel like I'm sorry that I'd never watched these movies before. I watch a lot of foreign language films. I don't know I don't know why I didn't really dip into Indian film. Like Sean, I'd seen, the first Apu film, Patha Panchali, in college, I think, by Satyajit Ray. And I am also, even though I'm sorry that I haven't been watching these movies for years, I'm also thrilled that I found them the way that I found them. Because RRR is one of my favorite films of any film, and it exploded all of the ideas that I had of what Indian film might be, which, as we said, is, musicals from Bollywood and all that sort of stuff. And it's been like, if you had asked me before, I would have said, well, India is a gigantic, diverse democracy with all sorts of languages and cultures and things like that. I didn't know anything about the film business. I didn't know about the distinct language and regional film worlds, and how many different kinds of movies that they put out. Like now I can look at a movie and I can guess, well, that's a Malayalam film,
right.
That's a Telugu film, that sort of thing, which I think is really exciting. And, the other thing that also makes me feel bad that I never watch them is Hollywood puts out a few hundred movies a year, and India puts out 800 movies a year?
Yeah.
Something like that. And the only image I would ever really associate, a specific image that I would really associate with Indian film before we started this adventure, that pose of Shah Rukh Khan, where he's raising his arms up, that I couldn't have told you who he was. I knew that he was a big Indian superstar and that was a big deal in Indian movies, but that was it. So that this was like the most fun way of blowing up my preconceptions in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that they would be more like those Spanish melodramas when I thought of Indian films. Those very serious, when you watch those over the top soap operas that they have.
Oh yeah.
The telenovelas.
So, and when I saw RRR, I was like, what the hell is this? Is this what all these are going to be like? And thankfully it's not. I mean, I loved RRR, but I also like The Lunchbox, and I like some of the more grounded films, and I like the horror films that we've seen. So yes, it's great being introduced to this. I couldn't say that if I weren't doing the show, I'd keep watching. Maybe I would. I'm not sure, but I'm glad we have the show to watch these because I do enjoy what we're seeing. So his second part of the question, let's do one word answer each. Okay. and he pluralized it, but just one word. Okay. One or two. What are the traits or any peculiar stuff you wish Hollywood can learn from Indian movies? So what one trait would you like to transfer from India to Hollywood?
Me?
Go ahead,
Sincerity.
Sean. Okay. That's a good one. They are very sincere in these films. Very.
I'm going to dovetail on that and say like emotion.
Okay.
They're very emotional.
A lot of men crying in these. A lot of men slapping people. Yep. John?
One word.
Well, I'm just.
Listen.
I'm trying to make it quick.
All their movies are made for families.
Right.
A lot of the movies are made for families.
Right.
I mean, a lot, no matter what the genre. I kind of like that. The whole family goes as a unit. That doesn't really happen much unless it's a kid movie. So I like that.
Okay. Drew?
It's not really one word without adding another word, but tone, because they are able to do tonal shifts that I think were more jarring to us, a year ago, but they pull that off. And, there are these movies, and some of them are gigantic movies, so there's plenty of room for it. And not everything that they do works, but Bahubali, for example, has genuine drama, genuine adventure, genuine comedy, genuine romance. It has all these different things, and they bounce between them in ways that I think an American or even a Western audience would find a little jarring. And I don't find that jarring anymore. So sometimes it would be fun to see.
Well, now you expect it. Now when you watch these movies, you expect it.
For an American audience, it would be jarring, and I don't think it would work. For an Indian audience, and now for us, I completely expect it and think. My only thing is I would love the musical bits to happen more in Hollywood films.
Because it's funny you say that, because I watched Speed Racer recently, and I love that movie. It's ridiculous. It did not reach an audience for reasons that I understand. I think if it were to be reappraised now, it would be. But if that was an Indian movie, it'd be 20 minutes longer because of all the music and the songs, and I would be there for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
it would be great.
Austin Powers, he dropped music in the middle of his thing. Yeah. I mean, I like it, and I think it's a pee break in these movies too, or it's a break. It is a break because they're bringing families and they want to, Anyway, okay. So question number 2.
Already?
Oh yeah, can you believe it?
I love number 2.
They're not in order here.
It's from Manish 1301.
Yes, thank you for.
And he wants to know, why don't you all review newer films on the main show?
You mean on this show, Yippee-Ki-Yay? Because
So, who
Manish
wants to take that, Ralph? Why don't you take that?
Because it doesn't matter, Manish. It just doesn't matter. We've tried everything. The biggest numbers we have are on a film called Young Frankenstein, and the only reason we have those numbers, and I think it's over 100,000 now, is people think they're actually going to watch the film. And we
even though we're very clear that they are not.
They are not, and we were accused of doing that on purpose, which we did not. I mean, it was
And
a
they're
complete
angry
review
about it.
and so we've
And
tried.
who would want to watch that movie anyway? I mean,
You're crazy, but we've tried, Manish.
Yeah.
We have tried everything, and we just can't get an American audience to groove to us like you guys do. So thank you
And
for
as
that.
far as current Indian films, we can't watch them unless they come to our theaters, and they don't come to my theaters, and they don't stream right away. So we can't watch, because someone brought up in the comment section, you guys should talk about this movie that's not even out yet.
I mean, do you think he was talking about a new Indian film or new?
I think he was talking.
Hollywood film?
I think he was talking about new Indian films. Because the main channel, the Indian audience thinks the main channel is Cinemaniacs, not YKY. So
viewership wise, it is.
Yeah, I think he was probably referring to indie movies. But the answer to both is, one, we can't watch current Indian films for the most part, and on the other show,
Nobody
it doesn't make a
cares.
difference when we
Right.
do it. Like,
I will
someone
say-
did bring
yeah.
up, why don't you watch current Hollywood films? Someone asked that on the Indian channel, and we tried it. And
We
just-
don't
it
get
doesn't
any
work.
more viewers
Yeah,
watching.
no,
it,
but
Kurt.
we don't hardly get any views.
You know, it's
that's
like
why.
I was talking to John and Ralph before the other guys came on. They had another show called Cue It Up, and they invited me on, and we talked about My Name Is Nobody, a spaghetti western starring Terrence Hill
From the 60s,
and Henry
right? Or
Fonda
70s.
from like 1973,
Yeah.
and that got 42,000 views. Now, because some people are saying you're watching all these films from the 70s. So that's why people aren't watching. But we watched that and it got 42,000.
It makes no sense.
We watched
can't.
Cocaine Bear, it gets 100 views.
Yeah, can't
You
figure
know,
it
it
out.
doesn't.
It
if
could
we
be.
knew
I
what
have a
people
listen.
wanted to see.
I have a theory. We're not that good.
Well, Ralph, obviously,
There's evidence for that.
the 1 month away hasn't
We have
improved your
many-
taste
we have
because
a
you
lot
are
of
wrong.
Okay.
We are that good.
And I will say one thing
I like
about
to think we
Indian
are.
films.
Yeah.
I noticed a distinct change in the number of views depending on the language.
That is true.
Oh, sure.
That
You
is
know,
true.
it seems like the Telugu language films get the most views. And the Malayalam, what is that it?
Malayalam.
Malayalam films get the fewest. But, you know, I wouldn't want to stop watching any film from any language because, like, the Malayalam films are some of my favorites, you know, and the Hindi language.
Yeah, the diversity is great, and the tones are definitely different at each
And
territory, and that's fascinating.
And I think we're used to not getting views. So if we do one in a language that doesn't get a lot of views and we enjoy the film, we
Well-
don't feel like we're cheating ourselves or anything.
Well, the only reason we're doing this show is because we got so many views a year ago on RRR. Otherwise, I mean, we'd
Right.
still be doing the other show. We haven't stopped
Right.
because we don't get a lot of views, because we enjoy
Right. We
talking
like
about
talking
movies
films.
with each other.
Right.
That's part
Right.
of it. We enjoy talking about films with each other. And that hasn't stopped.
It's a little club and we're letting other people in on
Yeah.
it.
I mean, granted I took a month off, but I took 6 months off a couple years ago too. So
Well, that was
it
a whole different reason.
that was a different reason. But
That was your.
all right. So
relationship.
question
Well,
number
I
three.
do want, you know,
ahead.
what was I going to say is that
I don't know.
I think we would still be watching Indian films, you know. I think watching a couple of them did make me want to watch them more. In fact, now when I'm on Netflix, like half the films that they're suggesting for me are Indian films, and I'm often tempted by them, but I don't hit on them because I'm like, oh, I don't want to watch this now because I may have to watch it later, you know, because we do watch one a week.
No, I will say, I said earlier that if I weren't doing the show, I wouldn't watch them. That's not true, because I do watch them outside of the show, mainly because a lot of them are showing up in my Netflix queue now. I think that's happening to a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'll look at the length first. And if I really want to dive in and do a 3-hour film, I'll do it. But if I see an hour 48, I'm on
I'm
it
in.
because I know it's probably going to be pretty good and it'll be fun.
Wednesday was like that. Nice and short.
That was
great.
And I love
Yeah,
that.
when I was single, I lost out on length a lot too.
Okay. Anyway,
See, this
Ralph,
is why
let me read the
that's a
next
question
one
okay, go
because
ahead.
this is a question for you particularly. This is from Pratham Prakash 6098. After Lagan, Ralph said he was into cricket. Have you pursued it any further?
Well, I have a couple of problems. One
In
is
his mind.
no. One is I went to a cricket training facility right down the street from where I live, and I need to get equipment, I think, and I'm trying to work with the person who owns that to see if they'll let me go in and shoot. The other thing is I had a couple of young Indian fellas who I work with who were going to get me to go to their. The idea was I'd go to their house, we would watch a cricket match, and I'd videotape that, and they'd explain everything to me. But they're millennials or Gen X or Gen Z, and every time I try to reach out, they never seem to find time. So, but they also told me, and I think one of the viewers said that there's a tournament coming to the United States.
A cricket tournament?
Cricket tournament pretty soon. There's one big one happening now in India, but I think there's going to be one coming to the United States. If it's close enough, if it's Philly or New York or something, I would definitely go.
Well, I know they keep talking about something in Florida.
I wouldn't go to Florida, but I would go to Philly or New York or somewhere closer to here. So yeah, I am trying to. I do enjoy the sport, and I was watching a movie the other day, and one of the protagonists was talking to somebody, and the guy was not paying attention because he was watching cricket, and it was an American film. I can't remember the film, but it was pretty funny. So I am trying to, and these guys too. The two guys were going to take me into a tennis court like we used to play, hit a ball against the wall, whatever, wall ball or whatever. They do the same thing with cricket. They do the same thing with cricket.
You're going to imagine yourself hitting a sixer?
They're going to, whatever. They're going to throw it,
he hit a wicked sixer.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay.
So, there you go. All right. Question. What are we on? 4?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Many faced one God 7243.
I bet I could have pronounced that one. I probably would have blown it. I would have said many faced.
This is a great question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When are you visiting India? Most of us would be glad to host the group. And when will you? This is the best part of this one. Well, let's answer the first one.
Yeah,
anytime. I'd like to go anytime. Sometime.
It would be amazing.
It would be amazing if we actually knew people over there and they invited us. So, how do you guys feel about that?
Well, let me say that unlike a lot of people in our country, I know that when you say that and you extend that hospitality, you actually mean that.
Yeah,
and that's really very kind of you. If I found myself in Hyderabad and there was a fan there who said, "Oh, come over, let's have dinner," I would not only be a real invitation, I wouldn't have to worry it was a secret trap to abduct my American self into a dungeon or something.
Like that other show.
So I think that's, and I've lived in some other countries and some other cultures where it's equally the same when somebody says, "Oh, I just met you 10 minutes ago, but you seem nice. Let's come over for this or whatever." And they mean it. And sometimes you take people up on it and you have a nice evening with new people that you've never met. So thank you very much for saying
And this
that.
was
That
not
said,
the first.
I don't know when
had.
I would go to India because
we'd have to, as a group, once we get up to at least $100, we'll maybe get tickets for everybody.
I mean, I would love to go. How I
on
can pull
what?
it off,
A rowboat?
Yeah, whatever.
How are we getting there?
It's not the first offer we've had, though.
I've heard.
Let me ask this: best case scenario, if there was somehow in a perfect world, the whole group could go, would everyone go?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Okay.
It's a long
100%.
plane ride.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't care.
We could watch movies.
Yeah.
Right. We could watch 4 movies.
We could review
Actually,
the movies on
2.
the plane.
Probably
As long as
how
it's
long's the
no-
flight over there? How long's the flight? 12 hours? Is that what you mean by 4x3?
Well, it's 12 hours from the East Coast of the U.S. to Israel.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more than that.
Yeah.
So a bunch of movies. All
I
right.
can't
Here's
do a
the,
layover in China
bunch
or
of
Russia.
movies.
here's the part 2 question.
All right.
When
One
will you
word answers. One word
One.
answers.
When will you stop bullying Uncle and Auntie?
Yeah, I'll go first. Never.
Yeah. Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Sean,
Part of the fun.
Drew and Chris, you guys have anything to say?
I don't feel like I bully Uncle and Auntie. So
Well, it's, you have to admit it to
Thank you, Chris.
recover.
Sean,
Isn't
I've always asked you, what makes a good story? What is
Conflict.
Conflict.
That's it. So,
And in terms of Sean's contributions to the show, sometimes context as well.
yes, well, he does. He is the blue. He plays blue in all these. So that's
I
part
like
of
to
the reason.
work blue now and then. Just
Yeah.
a little
That's
bit.
part of the reason we pick on
And you
him.
do the Dutch angles with the camera and the really nice sound you get going on. So sometimes you deserve to be bullied a little bit.
Well,
All right,
you know
John,
what? I can tell you, I'm sure Auntie will appreciate that question, even though she's not with us here now.
Yeah, they do think we pick on you. They want us to stop, especially Chris. They said Chris by name.
That I picked on them?
No, it's me and
I
John.
don't know,
John and I are the
maybe-
sarcastic
Somebody
ones.
I remember saying,
The guy
that
with the
these
hat.
gray hairs have earned me respect.
It doesn't.
Good luck with
If
that.
that's the case, I get.
We all got a lot of respect then.
So. All right, question 5, John. Would you please pronounce the name?
It's Sukishmash Hizuku.
Tsukishima is what the first
Tsukishima.
part
No,
is.
it's longer than that.
I know, but the first part is
Tsukishima. I see that.
Shizuku.
Ashiku.
It's
Okay,
funny.
this is
I
a-
recognize the names from reading their comments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
this
here's
is a great question, but it doesn't need a 20-minute documentary.
Yeah,
so
please. And because there's 3 parts to this question.
right.
Do you guys have a personal favorite Indian film so far? Name one.
RRR, obviously.
Okay.
Well, I tell you what, I'm about to put out a blog that had my 10 favorite
Pick one.
Indian films.
Pick one right now.
Well, for the reasons
I'm
gonna
sorry I'm
pick,
picking on you, but pick one.
Okay. I'm going to go with, what's it, Anha Hunden.
In
Underdune, sure.
Yeah.
Hunden.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that mainly because I think I love that movie, but I think it's the most accessible for America. If I was going to tell people in American to watch one film to get into Indian cinema, it's going to be that one.
Well, no, I
my
disagree.
list.
RRR, if you want to get them into Indian cinema, is
I'm
the
afraid
gateway.
that just that beating that woman
Yeah,
on the
but you
head right
can't-
at the beginning.
Well, okay. Once
That
you get
movie's not
past
for
that,
everybody.
That's true. All
What
right.
about, well, then recommend Ega then. I'm sure that
Oh.
would be,
Yeah, he
I
goes
love
on
that
the
movie,
list
but
too.
that's not for everyone.
Right.
Great love
That's
story.
2 films by our
Yep.
Rajamouli.
By Rajamouli. Yeah.
Chris, you have a film?
I was funny because I was actually thinking the same one that Sean was talking about for the same reasons. I feel like it's got a very kind of cross-cultural vibe in that sense that I think people can get into that. It's very Hitchcockian, that movie, and the way that there's all these twists and things change and it's very different. I feel like Hitchcock would have made that film as well. So I think there's that. I was actually, I was a big fan of the last, is it the last film show or the last?
The last film show.
That was
The
beautiful.
last film show,
was gorgeous.
just because I'm a sucker for all those kind of movies about theaters, like about movie theaters, like Empire of Light and those kinds of things. I really did.
Cinema
On those.
Paradiso.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah. The last picture.
Yeah, it's funny. I signed up for Netflix for their last 2 months because their DVD business is going away September 29th. So it's been really fun having the red envelopes come in the mail and watching movies and stuff. But I wondered what they were going to do with them afterwards, and they didn't buy them outright. They licensed them, so a lot of them will be destroyed. And they announced that people at the end after September 29th, they're going to send 0 to 10 movies to various people's queues that they can keep. But there's such a huge library of movies that aren't on streaming that are only on DVD, and that library is going to disappear. And I found every time I think of that, I think of Last Film Show. I think of that message of we're not just losing a format, which happens. We're actually going to be losing movies that never made it to Blu-ray, never made it to streaming, that sort of stuff. And I hope that we don't leave too many of them behind. So
Yeah.
I'm getting some Indian movies too that aren't on streaming. So
All right,
Nice.
John.
Well, for obvious reasons,
We know.
because it changed my
We know.
life. 3 Idiots.
3 Idiots.
I wasn't sure which one you were going to pick, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was
I,
my first introduction.
Unlike, like I think Chris mentioned it, I don't care about other people watching these films. I do like to talk to them about it, and I do mention RRR and some others. My favorite is Tumbad. Is that the one, the horror one?
Oh,
about
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
going in the tunnel and getting the... And
bad.
that was directed
Lots
by
of
the
rain.
same guy that did the one of the later ones we saw about the kidney, right? Is that the same director that did the guy getting his kidneys taken care of?
Ship of Theseus.
Ship of Theseus, same guy,
They're the
right?
same people behind it, I think.
I
Yeah.
thought he directed it too. Anyway,
He
Tumbad.
I think he was in the movie. The director of that movie was in it.
Well, I thought Tumbad was both haunting and gorgeous and just a great story. So that's mine out of all of them we've seen. And there have been some great ones. Like Throw Out the Lunchbox is one of those. And like Ship of Theseus, we talked about a Wednesday. But Tumbad is the one when I think about the ones I've liked the most. It's that one. So, all right. Second part of the question. Are you guys liking Indian music as much too, along with the films? I think that's a big yes. If yes, I would like to know your favorite Indian songs. I couldn't name them, but
I can't name the song.
I can tell you the movie that was the one that I liked but
What was the one we just watched, John? Doctor.
What is it? Muna by MBBS.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought in particular, I thought one of my favorite musical numbers was in that one, where the guy tries to cheer up the guy who was suicidal because he lost his girlfriend, and he told his story. And then the later number where the guy is dying and they bring the girl in
The dancer.
to dance her, and I thought that was really terrific as well. So I'm kind of sad that wasn't the full show because Debbie didn't watch it, but I'm sure she would have absolutely loved that movie, and I just love those musical numbers.
Yeah. Drew, how about you?
That's really hard. I just opened up my
dance.
YouTube music. I have 31 songs on my Indian playback playlist. I listen to Indian songs all the time. I wake up every morning to Uriel Totem from Kumbalangi Nights. Even movies that I didn't like Doom 3, I listen to Malang and Calmly all the time. There's no way I could pick just one because I just love... I honestly feel like every other movie that we watch, I'm adding songs, and then I'll go back and I'll find more. I mean, and from all different places, from Kantara, from Ayapanam Koshyam, from
it's a hard question. Really.
all these different films. I just love it. And one of the things that makes me confident recommending some of these movies to people is that I can say there's great music in it. You're not used to that in the movies, so.
But if you could only listen to one, there could only be one. Your player only has room for one. Which one would it be?
Well, I mean, obviously it would be not to.
Okay, that's what I.
But I go back to some of the songs more than others. I listen to Bizamil a lot. That's from Hyder when he does the play, saying what happened to his family.
But not
there's so much.
Don't you need the visual for that to make that work? Like no. I need to see them dancing for that one to work for me.
Can I just say something about American films?
Yeah, well, I guess.
Remember,
at this point,
we're not talking about American films, Sean.
No, I just want to say in the 70s and 80s.
Sean, no.
In the 90s,
nope.
When they had the Oscar for Best Song, they were all good songs.
Yeah.
They were all hits.
Okay, we're talking about Indian
songs. And now you go
right
to the Oscars, and maybe you've heard one song played on the radio, what was the equivalent of the radio. The songs just suck. The Indian movies, I think, do a better job.
So, in answer to the original question, no, we are not going to stop bullying Sean.
No, we will not be.
Not going to stop bullying Sean.
Before
I don't think guiding the show is bullying.
No, yeah, I think I like Zooby Doo or Zooby Don't.
Zooby Dooby.
But the one that I remember, and it's really not an Indian song. It's the one from the movie where the woman goes to New York City and they sing that song about New York City.
English Vinglish.
There's that song in there.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that's considered an Indian song because it's all done in English. I'm not sure, but I love that song. And that song comes up in that movie. I just love that song. So, and second is Zooby Doo because I like that dance number. So,
Chris,
it's funny. I always think of the songs in relation to the film themselves. So, like you mentioned the piece from Hader, that's what instantly popped into my mind, partially because it works so well in the film and it's part of the movie. But I'd probably say, not to. It's just there's something about the images, the way it is. It's kind of got that totally rebellious vibe, and it's just I love that pounding beat, and it's just Well,
if you had no knowledge of Indian films too, it was completely unexpected. This brilliant musical number. Because that was my reaction to it. I was like, "What the hell is this? This is a beautifully choreographed musical number."
And
it's pushing the story forward.
Yeah,
yeah,
it did. It told the whole story within the dance.
I've got this was tough for me because the music in the Amir Khan films are just so great. So
a lot of good ones.
It was Bum Bum Bole, which Praise to the Lord, which is from Ter Zameen Par, that's sung by Shan. I really love that song because of where the story was going and how that once they did that song everything changed. But I have to go with, and it's the one that I watch the video all the time, is Zooby Dooby. I just love that number. I love the way it was done. I love the callbacks to old Hollywood and actually old Bollywood too, and that's also sung by Sonu and Shreya. I want to give them credit. So that's the one for me. That's the one I can watch. Actually, the three that I mentioned, including RR, I watch those all the time on YouTube. All the time, I love them.
I wasn't sure which song you were going to pick. I thought you were either going to pick Zooby Doo or Nanga Punga Dost from PK.
Oh,
which
yeah.
which is just, it's so silly and it's so fun, and it's one of those movies that it just says the title and the premise of the movie over and over, and yet it's still so infectious.
You know what's funny, Drew? I liked the song and I liked it in the movie, but it wasn't one that I continue to watch over and over again. Like when we first watched RRR, I was watching that dance number every morning.
Oh yeah.
And when Zooby Dooby came out, I just, and Rose is in the kitchen rolling her eyes because she can hear the music, not seeing the video, you know? So
yeah, I've been listening to the song that the girls sing in Dangal, Hani Karak Bapu, I think it is, where the lyrics are all, "Dad, why are you torturing us when you make us train," and all that kind of stuff.
Those were good.
They're great lyrics, but I mean, it's a great song. It's a great song to work out to. It's a great song to watch Kelly sigh to. Like, it's just,
it is funny though when you hear the songs that are dead on what's going on. That is that is a nice.
But the lyrics are all dead on to the story usually.
Well, I mean, yeah, usually.
I mean, they're very.
Sometimes the dance numbers are just beautiful dance numbers. Like,
I mean,
the one in Doom where she dances in front of him to try out was cool.
Yeah, nice. That's Calmly. That's a great song, and that's a great scene. Yeah, that's funny because with Malong in that movie, the whole like Cirque du Soleil thing of his act, I never watched that video. I don't care about that at all. I just love the song.
Yeah.
But like in Dosti, which is the after Ram and Beam rescue the boy at the bridge at the railway, and then they become friends, and the song is about their friendship, and it's literally like, will they ever find out? Will fire beat water? It's so it's
such a bromance song too, that song.
But yet the more that I watch it, the more that I fell in love with it, because we know something they don't,
right? And
they are becoming actual friends, and it's just great stuff.
I have a theory that if we do go to India, Drew is not coming back. He's going to stay.
I don't know. It depends if the Indian movie business would welcome someone who really likes their music as much as their movies, but offers no other thing other than joy. I mean, I guess that's a job. I don't know.
It could be.
I don't know, Drew. I think you were in the movie business. I think you have something to offer.
I was a long time ago. That's true.
All right. Third part of the question: how did you all meet? And I guess
Ralph and I came out of my mother's womb.
I was going to say we met very early.
So we met early.
Across my mother's boobs, maybe. Probably he was on one side, I was on the other.
Kushamak.
But this actual podcast started with Sean and I about 5-6 years ago. We both found ourselves working at National Geographic. I had been wanting to do why I wanted to do a podcast about 70s films. And when I met Sean, I finally met someone who I said, "Oh, this is the guy that will talk to me about this stuff." And what we did is we put together a group of Sean and I and two other guys, millennials, young guys. And our theory was we were going to have them watch these old films that we liked and get their perspective. And ultimately it turned that they would give us films that we would watch to get our perspective. And that's how it started. And
we were bitching that so many people at these companies, these media companies we worked for, it isn't like they haven't seen the films from the 70s. They hadn't even seen Jaws.
Yeah, it was shocking. It was shocking.
It's shocking, but the people who are going to be making the decisions in this business have not seen even, not the classic cinema of all time, even the popular cinema.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is shocking. And when you realize that they, like you said, Jaws, when the millennials, they talk about Jaws, they're like, huh, who cares? What? Right? So we did that. It was literally in my basement on a pool table, and it was audio only. Except I started getting bored, as usual, and I started putting cameras up around so we could start videotaping.
That happens a lot with you.
And that went for a couple of years until the classic, what's it called? Ladies' Choice. That some things happened on that show that aired some dirty laundry that shouldn't have been aired, and I quit.
And you were emotionally scarred for about 6 months.
I couldn't take it anymore, and I stopped. And then COVID.
That's the old rule: don't combine open bar and open mic.
Yeah, it was. She had a couple. Yeah, I'm not going to blame her because I was doing the same thing. But but COVID happened, and we figured out I had never heard about Zoom before COVID happened. This being able to get people in a meeting like we're doing right now. And I brought it back. And by doing that, we added people. Sean brought Drew. I think the first one was Little Miss Sunshine, right?
That's it. Yep.
Yep. I brought John, invited John to come on the show. And
Miracle Mile.
and at that time we had a couple other people on.
Billy DeModa was on for that one.
Demoda was on that. We had guests. We even had Lou Diamond Phillips one time. Very exciting. And then I met Chris at a restaurant. My now wife and I double dated. Went on a dinner date with Chris and his wife, and Chris and I start talking about movies. So I invited Chris on, and that's kind of how we met. Now we've seen each other in person. John lives in Boston area, so it's a little more difficult for him. The rest of us are up towards Baltimore.
But Sean and Drew knew each other, didn't they?
Yes.
Didn't you guys know each other? You knew each other.
for decades, really.
Yeah. I will
Chris
say
was
also,
the only one
too,
who nobody knew and
Chris is the
somehow
outsider.
got on the show. I don't know how that
I
worked.
will say Drew had the first podcast I ever listened to. What was it called? And
Story Punk. That was my
Yeah.
first show.
I listened to it on the web because I didn't know I could listen to it on my phone with the podcast function. So and Ralph was the second person to talk to me about podcasts. And I just want to say, I love the group we have now, but I think everybody we've had on really added something, and we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of people, and a lot of my favorite shows were with our guests. Like when our son-in-law Eric came on, it was the end of a great football season, and he had sacked Tom Brady a few times. So that was good.
Probably
for you
by
guys.
accident. I'm sure Tom tripped or something. I'm sure.
Yeah. I liked John's question to him. How did he smell?
Right.
And like Kenji when he came in and talked about Donnie Brasco and talked about really being in the mob and how much the movie was like. And we've had and the people we've had on, Uncle Al, and it was fun hearing about Hassan and how
Wojo and Brad. We've had a lot of
Brojo.
but this crew,
Brojo.
Wojo, this crew has stuck through it and
Yeah.
through thick and thin because, we do this and we get 80 views. What's the point? But again, like we said,
because we love talking to each other.
we love talking
Yeah.
about it. So
But Ralph, a rabid 80 people. I mean, they're rabid fans.
I don't know on the Yippee-Ki-Yay side. I'm not sure how rabid they are.
Oh,
I don't
man.
know how
There's
many
at least
accident
3 or
views.
4 of them. Some of them are even our spouses, but not all of our
Not
spouses.
all of our spouses are watching this, so that's true.
No.
Debbie
and
may not be here tonight, but I suspect she will.
This is how I know Chris really likes being on here because I know his wife's car got hit today, and normally Chris would have to be dealing with a lot of stuff, and she actually put a call in to have her son taken care of so he could be on the podcast,
Oh,
which tells me that
That's commitment.
That is commitment. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I
Yes,
knew he was
thank you.
committed because his kids need to eat dinner, and he waits till the end. Sometimes when he's watching
I
them,
know.
he waits.
But they don't eat
after
till
the
10.
podcast
He's
to
got
feed
plenty
them.
of time. They
So
don't eat
we've
till
had
10
we
o'clock.
have a good crew. We've had a good crew.
Mediterranean here.
It's been fascinating to add the Indian cinema stuff to us too, and hopefully you guys had a guest on. Drew and Sean interviewed one of our
Nishan,
guests,
right? Niche, right?
So hopefully we'll do a little bit more of that too. Get some of our
And you have been, Ralph, I might as well say this. I'll just throw it out there just to pump you up just a little bit. You have been a tremendous showrunner, a little bit dictatorial, but that's part of the gig with you because when you get bored, you lose interest.
You don't want me to get bored.
No. So
Right.
you've been a great showrunner and you've been the glue that's kept this thing together.
Well,
So
thank
we
you.
appreciate
I don't believe
that.
that, but thank you. Although, yeah.
But you are a little sarcastic. I mean,
I am very sarcastic, not a little sarcastic, and I can't remember anybody's name or
that
name
guy
of
with the
movie,
beard
so-
and the hat. He's very sarcastic.
You
Okay.
can't remember people's names in English, so don't.
That's
don't
what I'm
feel
saying. I
like-
can't remember anybody's
it's not
name.
an insult
No,
to Indians
no.
or anything.
Please, they should understand that. I get them wrong all the time. All right, question. I think this is the last question. Yashahora 394.
Yash Rohar.
Yeah, Yash
394,
Rohar
yep.
394. Have you guys tried Indian food? Maybe you guys should meet up and do a food tasting video. That would be fun.
Yeah.
So I've had Indian food, and I enjoy
too.
Indian food. So
Yeah.
I enjoy Indian food. Though once at a private house, someone made Indian food, and they had something in it that I had a really horrible allergic reaction to. I thought I was going to end up in the hospital. But at restaurants and all, I really enjoy it. And Debbie and I were driving by and saw a new restaurant that we wanted to try out. So I hope we
So
will.
you just can't say yes, can you? Yes,
I like to give
Indian
a
food.
story.
Okay.
I'm a storyteller.
John, have you ever had Indian food?
No.
I'm going to say no. I would
Really?
say no. Yeah.
No.
Too many
I don't
vegetables.
eat vegetables. I don't eat any vegetables at all. Zero.
Including, I mean, you could eat like chicken and rice or something, right?
That I could eat. And I've
But
had
not
chicken
with,
rice in
I
my
don't
life.
think you would put the stuff on it. Would you put the sauce on
I don't mind spicy.
it? Okay.
I don't mind spicy, but vegetables, because all the cooking, there's vegetables all over the
Yeah.
food. I don't want any vegetables near my food. I'm
This
just
kid,
telling
he
you now.
doesn't eat anything green.
I'm a
He's never
meatitarian.
eaten anything green.
Wow.
I
No,
think
that's
he
not
actually
true.
spit a pea out one time. He
Well,
couldn't even-
Dad offered me $5 a pea for every pea I'd eat. I had one and I choked on it and spit it out. Yeah, that's a true story. Raw carrots is the only thing I will eat.
and he's the
Raw
healthiest
carrot.
one in the family.
Not-
No issues.
yeah, I'm
I
gonna-
don't understand it.
If
Makes
it's
no
not
sense.
processed, I won't eat it.
So we'll have to take John to an Indian restaurant, have him try some stuff out. That'd be fun. Chris, you like
The
Indian
bread's
food, yeah?
great.
Oh yeah. I think Indian food is pretty fantastic. I'm lucky. We used to have this company I used to work for. Actually, the company I work for now has a very large Indian population, but the one I worked for before, when we were still all in office, we used to have the greatest potlucks ever. And it was because we had people from all over the country, all over the world, actually, Africa and India and Far East Asia. Yeah, I love samosas. Those may be the greatest thing ever if they're made right. And these guys used to get all their wives to cook because I wouldn't eat what these dudes made, but like they would always bring the most amazing food. So
Like
yeah,
the Great
I'm-
Indian Kitchen.
That's
Get
what I
them
was
all
thinking.
cooked.
Yeah.
exactly. I hope it wasn't that situation.
Drew, did you answer? Did you say yes? You must say yes.
I haven't answered, but yeah, I do. I like Indian food a lot. It doesn't always agree with me, but it's I don't seek out super spicy food because if it's just heat and no flavor, I don't like that. But Indian food has so many wonderful flavors and textures that I don't eat it very often. But just talking about this now makes me think I have a friend. I'll call him up and we'll go out in a couple of weeks and get some lunch, and it would be really nice.
I
I
can't
want to
remember.
point out that Drew lives in the wilderness.
Right.
That's true. I do live in the country.
I
We have three restaurants and none of them deliver, so I really have to hike
Oh,
to go pick
geez.
up a sandwich or
Wow,
or
you are
pizza.
isolated, huh?
It's pretty crazy.
I do not like eating with my hands. I don't like to get my hands.
Yeah,
food.
I don't
It's
like
a-
to watch
it's a
people eating with their
strange
hands.
thing. So when I watch all these Indian films where guys
Yeah.
are digging in the dish,
I'm
and
the
digging
same
out the
way.
stuff, I can't take it.
Yeah.
It's
You're
amazing.
Get
allowed
a
to use
fork, will
silverware
you?
if
Just
you
get
want.
a fork.
All right,
Allowed
part
to.
2.
Use the forks.
I want to see how Sean answers this. Actually,
Uh-oh.
what's something that you don't like about your Indian audience?
I'm going to go first because I'm going to make it short. I don't like the fact that when we review a film, and this is on both the tennis show and this show, and if you don't know the history or you don't know something about the culture, they're angry that you didn't do research before you watched the movie. And most of the research we do is after the movie. And frankly, I like to just watch a movie and let it go the way it goes. I don't want to have to do massive research before I watch a film. That kind of annoys me. But I mean, we appreciate all the comments. That's the one that kind of bugs me, though. And that we get that a lot.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably true. That some people get angry that we don't know the culture, and I'm like, well, that's why we're watching the movies, you know. And I don't. And if a movie's good, you really shouldn't have to know too much of the culture.
That's what I think, too. Yeah.
You know, and this is true of both shows. I usually try not to research the movies at all before I watch them. I don't want to read what the critics have to say. I don't want to know the context. I don't read all the trivia on the IMDb because I just want to see the movie. And then, you know, sometimes I'll look something up. But, you know, I mean, we're on here to give our opinions and not just, you know, parrot
Yeah,
back
why
what
should
other
they be
people say.
informed? That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, I mean, a movie has to stand on its own.
Right.
You know, it is a standalone piece.
Yeah, but if
And
you're rooting for the guys who, I mean, that's part of the frustration is if you're rooting, you go, that guy was
You're
great.
rooting
You
for the
find
wrong
out that
guys.
he's a
Yeah.
terrorist, you
Right.
know, and half the audience thinks you're. I mean, for me, yes, it's frustrating when you first start doing this that they're commenting on the fact that you Western guys don't know anything, but then it just shows the passion of how much they love their films and how proud they are, and you kind of just, and again. we're talking about one or two people that have said
Right.
stuff that doesn't out of how
And
many.
we do get defended by other commenters.
Yeah. So I don't
about that.
I don't have any. It's say what you want. It's the internet. People are going to comment all the time. Who cares? I just like that. I mean, it is nice when you get them appreciating what we do, and I like the fact that we have people that keep coming back and appreciate it. So that's always good. You guys have anything, Chris or Drew? Any?
I just wish our most loyal fans would bring even more of their friends, or maybe even try the other show.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
You mean if they're subscribed, if they hit the notification button,
right?
That's exactly right.
That's right.
And if they smash the like button. I'm just saying.
All right. Is this
Good point.
is six?
I like the way
This
you
is
did
the
that,
last
Drew.
question, right, John? Six. There's only six.
No, he's got one after that.
Well, I know,
which
but
is
this six.
Yeah, this is yeah.
Here's the last question. Which is the worst Indian movie you've seen so far?
Wait, did Chris answer that last question? Did he?
I think he was nodding his. Did you?
No, Chris, you didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
You didn't say anything.
He took so long on the first one. I wasn't going to wait for him.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, I read.
Boy, that month did not pay off, Ralph. I'm not going to lie to you.
Not relaxed at all. I don't know what happened.
As far as comments go, I mean, I completely understand why some people get irritated at our ignorance. And the nice thing is there's been plenty of comments just recently when I did the 20-ish minute review. I had kind of gone on at length about one thing in the movie, and somebody made a very salient comment about what I had said. And I was like, oh yeah, you know what? You're right. I was kind of missing that whole other element about this particular character and how he was really a lot worse than I wrote him off, or that I made him out to be.
Right.
And so like a lot of times, and then other times I'll read something and I'll look at that and they'll be like, oh, you're completely, wrong about that. And I'll be like, no, I understand what an adaptation is. I just didn't think it was very good.
Yeah, I think I would react if someone were watching a film about 9/11, right? And they're rooting for the guys in the cockpit. And you hear the review and you go, those guys were amazing the way they were able to fly that plane. And we would go, what are you talking about, you a-hole?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we must be coming off.
But the good thing about that is like the historical stuff that we watch, like things I never knew happened. It opens the door to look into it afterwards. It's like, I never knew that. I can't believe I didn't know that. Now you look up the real stuff and you look up documentaries. That I like.
Yeah,
but I don't want to do that before I watch a movie.
But it does. You're right. You go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by the British colonialism, which I had never really dug my head in. And
one of our viewers sent us some great little documentaries and speeches.
Oh yeah,
about how India was exploited by Britain.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Well, now we know.
Yeah.
That's how.
All right. Last question, Ralph. This is a big one.
Which is the worst Indian movie you've seen so far? I'm gonna say Dune.
Yeah.
Doom.
Wait a minute. Doom 3.
Whichever one we saw. Doom 3.
Yeah,
With the
Doom 3.
motorcycle that went between the cars.
Wow.
I thought that was stupid. That movie was stupid.
I mean, the only thing I liked about Doom 3 was literally that it was fun to see like all these like Indian stars that we've come to know who they are running around Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was what made it interesting, but it was still dumb.
Yeah. But it was not
I would say, and it's probably Joel G. The redo of Macbeth. And maybe it wasn't the film as much as it didn't meet my expectations, because I thought Omkara and Hader were absolutely terrific. I thought they worked as standalone movies and as Shakespeare adaptations. And so I just was a little underwhelmed by
I just love that lead actor in that film. And that's the same guy from the movie you liked, right, Sean? Is that the same guy that played the drunk in the
Super Deluxe? He was in Super Deluxe too.
And Kalabandi Nights.
Super Deluxe.
Well. He was the evil brother-in-law.
Yeah.
All right, John.
Mustache.
John, worst film.
Well, it was it was one that I didn't watch on the big show. I did a 10-ish minute review. It was Golmaal Fun Unlimited with Ajay Devgan. It was a hilarious comedy that was not funny at all. Yeah, it was bad. It was.
I love him.
I do too, but even he was lousy in this movie. It was just and maybe the humor in that culture doesn't translate well, because some people did say that. I think a comedy should be funny, and it was not funny.
Okay, Chris.
Oh, I said Doom 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, it just the linking of the motorcycle. What? Anyway, I don't know why, but like I said, I had literally just watched The Prestige, but literally the moment the one kid disappears, I was like, they're twins.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Sorry, guys, I'm spoiling that movie.
Drew.
Well, I'm glad I can say that I didn't hate any of the movies. That
I knew you were going to do that.
I found the Doom movies pretty tiresome overall. There were little parts that I liked, like in the second one, Hrithik Roshan pretending to be a statue, and as I said, I really liked the music, and I liked Ratsasan. That was the serial killer one. I dug that until the ending. The ending was so silly that it kind of gutted the rest of it for me. But I honestly, looking back at the almost 40 movies that we've watched just for the main show, I would think there's got to be like some real stinkers in there. And as much as Ralph likes to smirk that we're too easy on the movies or something, I mean, we have been getting recommended movies that a lot of people feel really strongly about, and a lot of people have been right. And I think it's really good that we've been watching those movies. And I haven't seen all the movies that John has watched. He's watched almost twice as many movies, but watching the reviews, I try not to watch too many of them spoiler wise. But like, there's a whole list of those movies that I want to watch, like a Wednesday and things like that. So
yeah, but I bring a movie like The Counselor to the other show, and you guys had no problem ripping that to shreds.
Well, it sucks.
And
first of all, I love that movie, and I wasn't on the show.
I'm sorry,
so
Drew, not you.
Alone with
Drew
it.
excluded.
You're
You're 100% right. Drew is excluded. But I mean, again, you didn't consider
I could be
that
wrong,
source.
but Ralph sounded awfully bitter just then. I mean, there was definitely some bitterness in his voice the way he said that.
So
I will
John,
say, can I just say one thing?
Yes, of course, Sean. Say one thing.
4-star rating, I would say all the films we saw were at least 2-star. Except maybe that Ratsashan, I should have remembered that. That did fall apart at the end. I like the initial conceit of it, but shouldn't be surprising because, I think Drew said, we're watching films that people really love, and I know the film we watched that people hated the most. Our audience was the one you brought in, Ralph, the Crash one.
Runway 34.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed that.
Well, also the other one that John and I talked about, the British one about the two girls. What's the name?
Polite Society.
Polite Society. I mean, that got no hits at all.
I haven't seen that
That
one
just
yet.
tells me that they don't like that film.
Yeah,
and I thoroughly enjoyed it
because it wasn't. They got because we called it an Indian film, and it's
a British film.
Well, I think
Can
I
I
first
say
said
one thing about Runway 4?
Yes, say one thing. Yes,
34.
Yes.
Runway
Let me
34.
continue. 34. And when it's on Twitter, that gets the most. When I put a thing up on Twitter, tweet about that movie.
I think you mean X.
Yeah, on X, it gets the most likes. It gets the most views.
I think if you were on X, that film would be better too.
Could be.
Just saying. All right, so John, you said you have a few films left from the viewer wheel. All right, so John, these are the 3 left of the viewers.
These are the 3 that are left. Yes, sir.
And what was that you said? Which one has to be watched by all of us?
Okay, so Skyber.
Yep.
I was going to do Special 26 as a 20-ish minute review, but in the comment section, he made it clear he wants us all watching it.
Okay.
He wants the big show watching it. So he's a loyal fan. He's always commenting. So
all right,
that's why he's up there.
Well, let's see what happens.
Jersey.
Evil Dead.
There it is.
There we go.
Skyber, that was not rigged. It was not rigged. That was random.
Not rigged?
That was not rigged.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Okay.
All right.
So, that looks good too.
The wheel is not random. The wheel is destiny. So,
What's it? Special 26.
well, what do we call it? Is it still you had a long name for it? Do we still have that
yeah,
name?
dictate or something. It was
Okay.
on.
Well, yeah, I
Well,
mean,
you'll
it really
see it. You'll
stuck.
see it when it airs.
Something
It's on
funny enough to be
Okay.
worth remembering.
Yeah,
apparently.
you'll fix that in post.
It's very wordy, but that's how I roll.
I just want to say again, Ralph, how good it is to have you back, because today you seem so relaxed, so gregarious. You can tell the month has really paid off for you.
It really
mentally
has.
and
I have
physically.
I have to admit.
Yeah.
I did think a little longer wouldn't be bad, but I'm glad I'm back.
Aren't you glad? Because this was nice to get everyone back together again. Get the
I
group.
think so.
It's like the Beatles on top of Apple Records, man.
Right. It is nice. So, all right. So next week,
I would like to say one thing when we're ready to close the show.
Go ahead.
It's
We're
not
ready
a
to
Sean
close
thing.
the show. We're ready to close.
Okay,
the show.
good. So India, I'm really proud of you. The Chandrayaan 3 moon lander
Yeah.
is only the 4th country ever to land successfully on the moon.
Very true.
I
The
watched
Russians
it.
crashed.
I watched it live at my desk. I love a good control room. I love space. I teared up when it was successful. I've enjoyed watching. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's Pragyan, the rover. I'm liking watching it zip around, and the fact that it was successful, like a week after the Russians failed, and where you landed in the southern part of the moon and everything. It's very exciting. It's very exciting, and I would not have been as emotionally involved in it if we hadn't been, exploring India and everything for the past year. So I thought that was just wonderful.
And you're counting our moon landing as one that actually got there too?
Yes, the only ones who've ever successfully landed are, it's America, Russia, China, and India, and the only ones that were manned were our landers. But hopefully that will change in the next couple of decades. And Israel, they crashed at the last minute. Russia crashed at the last minute last time. Like it's pretty hard. The other thing that I thought was funny is that the movie Interstellar cost $165 million, and it cost $75 million to get that Chandrayaan 3 to the moon. So I thought that was kind of a funny, funny thing. So.
Holy shit! So they put all the money on that launcher.
Yeah,
Ralph,
not that I don't love Interstellar.
All the money was on that rocket.
That's right.
Yeah, they did. That's right.
All right, everybody.
I'm sorry. No, sorry. So there are a bunch of Indian movies about your space program and different people in the space program. I don't know anything about them. Please recommend a good or the best Indian space movie. I was especially in the mood because I think that would be one that would be fun to bring to the show too.
Awesome. Okay.
Agreed.
All right, but for next week's, it's Special 26.
Special 26.
That could be about the moon program. We don't know.
Don't know. All right, everybody. I'm glad I'm back. Seriously, I'm glad I'm back. My
Ralph,
sarcasm.
I'm happy to have you.
My sarcasm will never go away. I just want everybody to know it's who I am and what I do.
Well, it's both of us, Ralph. It's both of us, not just you.
I think you're more sarcastic than I am.
I don't
actually.
think I am.
Well, we'll have to ask some people. Everybody, thanks for coming by, and Special 26 next week. And seriously, Sean, Debbie, take all the time she wants. Believe me, I understand. Sometimes you need a mental break from everybody. We miss her. Let her know we want her back. I know the viewers
audience
want her
will
back.
miss her.
But
They
it's
love
on
Aunti.
it's on her time.
Yeah.
Her time, not our time. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. All right.
I'll try to bring non sequiturs to the future broadcasts
Okay.
because Debbie's not going to be here.
That's yeah.
Oh, I see.
I'm glad you had to explain the joke. That makes
Well,
it
I
even
could see the look
funnier.
on Ralph's face. He didn't get it.
I didn't
so.
get it. I didn't get it. All right, everybody. Have a good night. Goodbye.
Hey, Ralph, you too. Good to have you back, man.
Thank
Love you, brother.
Bye.
Good to be
Thanks.
back, everybody.